What if I told you that a single moment could make the entire city of Monaco freeze? On that unforgettable night, right in the heart of Casino Square, a place that never slows down, something extraordinary unfolded. A deep, powerful engine note rolled in from a distance, echoing through the narrow streets like a signal that something rare was on its way. And then, before anyone could fully understand what was happening, the crowd parted, as a lineup of ultra-exclusive supercars glided into the square. But these weren't driven by celebrities. They weren't owned by flashy influencers. They belonged to Monaco's most powerful billionaire ladies, women whose presence alone can shift the atmosphere of an entire city. Every step they took, every door that opened, every detail of their arrival felt like a scene from a perfectly directed film. The elegance, the precision, the confidence. It was the kind of moment that makes even longtime Monaco residents stop and stare. If you love supercars, luxury fashion, and the hidden world of Monaco's elite, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Inside the Billionaires for more breathtaking stories. Because trust me, the most shocking moment of the night hasn't even happened yet. What if the true luxury of Monaco wasn't in the cars themselves, but in the way they arrive? The first thing that made the city stop wasn't the roar of the engines, it was the choreography behind it. In Monaco, billionaire ladies don't simply show up. Their arrivals are crafted with the same precision as a runway show, each movement flowing into the next like a perfectly timed performance. Long before the first supercar reaches Casino Square, there's already a quiet shift in the atmosphere. Street photographers adjust their lenses, valets straighten their jackets, even the sound of conversation softens, as if the entire square instinctively senses that something extraordinary is approaching. Then it begins. A single headlight reflection appears between the buildings, followed by a low rumble that vibrates through the pavement. The first supercar glides in, smooth, controlled, almost floating. A few seconds later, a second car arrives, then a third, each spaced with stunning symmetry. It's not a parade, it's a statement. A silent reminder that in Monaco, power speaks through elegance, not noise. When the doors finally open, there's no rush, no chaos. A well-trained security aide steps forward, not to push people away, but to create a subtle path of respect. The billionaire lady steps out with the ease of someone who knows the city is watching and knows exactly how to command that attention without saying a word. Her presence becomes the opening note of the night. Behind her, the next arrival begins. Another engine, another curve of carbon fiber, another moment where fashion, power, and automotive art blend into one seamless scene. And while onlookers try to capture every second on their phones, they can't shake the feeling that this performance is being orchestrated at a level far beyond anything they've seen before. Because what no one realizes yet is that this flawless arrival sequence is only the first signal of a much bigger surprise waiting just a few minutes later, one that will completely transform the night in a way no one in Monaco could have predicted. What truly stunned the crowd that night wasn't just the synchronized arrivals, but the cars themselves. Each billionaire lady stepped out of a machine so rare, so perfectly matched to her persona, that it felt less like a vehicle and more like an extension of her identity. In Monaco, a car is never just a car. It's a signature, a calling card, a coded message that only the elite understand. The first woman arrived in a Ferrari Monza SP2, a roofless masterpiece that glowed under the streetlights like liquid red metal. Its minimalist design mirrored her discreet, razor-sharp business reputation. A few locals whispered her name, but most only recognized the unmistakable combination of the car and the confidence in her stride. The pairing felt almost cinematic. Then came the second arrival. A deep blue Bugatti Chiron, its carbon fiber curves catching flashes from every camera in the square. This lady didn't just enter the scene, she dominated it. Her car, valued higher than some Monaco apartments, carried an unmistakable aura of authority. Even her license plate, a rare two-digit Monaco plate, signaled a level of status that very few ever reach. Moments later, another presence drifted in. This time, a Rolls-Royce Phantom, customized in an elegant pearl white. The door opened softly, and a woman stepped out with the calm, regal composure of someone who moves through life without a hint of hurry. Everything about her arrival whispered, "I don't compete, I reign." Each supercar was more than luxury, it was a character introduction, a story without dialogue, a portrait told through horsepower, color, and the way the engine settled after being shut off. And yet, even as the crowd admired these automotive works of art, a subtle tension began rising. People were starting to sense a pattern, each arrival more impressive, more deliberate, more breathtaking than the last, which led to an inevitable question hanging in the air. If these are the signature cars of Monaco's billionaire ladies, then what kind of vehicle could possibly belong to the final woman who hadn't arrived yet? What happened next was something even long-time Monaco residents weren't prepared for. The moment the billionaire ladies stepped out of their supercars, the entire street transformed into a fashion runway. It didn't matter that this was Casino Square, not Paris Fashion Week. The lighting, the atmosphere, the anticipation, everything aligned as if Monaco itself had choreographed the scene. And, in a way, it had. Because when these women arrive, the city becomes their stage. The First Lady, fresh from her Ferrari Monza SP2, wore a minimalist satin jumpsuit that shimmered under the street lamps like polished silver. The fabric caught every movement, giving her the elegant sharpness of a character stepping straight out of a high-end film. Her style was effortless but intentional, just like her car. Right behind her, the woman from the Bugatti Chiron made her entrance in a structured midnight blue dress paired with understated jewelry. The colors echoed the deep blue of her car, creating a visual harmony that photographers couldn't resist. Her outfit didn't scream for attention, it simply absorbed it. Then the lady from the Rolls-Royce Phantom stepped forward wearing a flowing white cape dress that moved like liquid light. The gentle breeze from the waterfront carried it softly behind her, creating a silhouette so graceful that even tourists lowered their phones for a second just to admire the moment without a screen. No one planned this scene, yet it looked orchestrated. Every detail, from the sound of heels touching the pavement to the subtle sway of luxury fabrics, felt like part of a perfectly timed show. For a few surreal seconds, Monaco was no longer a city. It was a cinematic universe where every woman became the leading character of her own story. But even as the crowd soaked in this unexpected fashion spectacle, a quiet murmur began spreading among the onlookers. Because if this was how the night's opening trio presented themselves, what would happen when the most mysterious woman, whose style and car no one had ever seen, finally made her entrance? What most people didn't realize at first was that the elegance of these arrivals wasn't defined only by the cars or the fashion. It was also shaped by the quiet presence of the security teams who moved with almost cinematic precision. In Monaco, billionaire ladies don't travel with large crowds of bodyguards. Their protection is subtle, calculated, and designed to blend seamlessly into the luxury around them. And on this particular night, their security presence elevated the spectacle even further. The first indication of who truly held power wasn't the car doors. It was the way a single security aide stepped forward before the lady from the Ferrari emerged. He didn't push the crowd back. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, with one smooth gesture, he created a respectful, invisible path. His movement was so fluid that it felt choreographed, almost like part of the arrival ritual itself. Moments later, the Bugatti Chiron security team appeared. Just two individuals, dressed in tailored dark suits, communicating only through subtle hand signals. No earpieces visible, no radios held up. Their silence spoke louder than any official announcement. They were there not to intimidate, but to uphold the aura of someone whose influence didn't need force to be recognized. Then came the Rolls-Royce Phantom. Her security escort moved differently, slower, more observant, almost regal. One bodyguard's role was simply to pause before she stepped out, surveying the scene with calm authority. This single second of silence carried more weight than any dramatic entrance could have. It became clear to everyone watching that true luxury isn't loud. It's organized. It's intentional. It's the kind of protection so expertly executed that it becomes part of the atmosphere itself. But as the crowd admired how perfectly aligned these arrivals were, whispers began spreading from the far end of the square. One of the security teams tightened their formation ever so slightly, not out of concern, but anticipation, because something, or someone, was approaching. And judging by their reaction, whoever was on the way carried an even higher level of significance. What truly shocked the city wasn't just the arrivals, it was where these billionaire ladies were actually going. Because unlike the usual Monaco nightlife routine, their destination wasn't the casino, the hotel bar, or even the upscale clubs that line the waterfront. No, they were headed somewhere far more exclusive. Monaco has layers of luxury that tourists never see, and even longtime residents rarely access. And that night, the billionaire ladies moved straight into one of those hidden layers. The first clue came when the lady from the Ferrari Monza SP2 stepped aside from the crowd and was quietly guided toward a private glass elevator tucked behind a decorative column. Most people didn't even know it existed. It's not marked, it's not advertised, but it leads directly to a rooftop lounge reserved only for select members of Monaco's inner circle. The second woman, the one who arrived in the Bugatti Chiron, was escorted in a different direction. Instead of heading into any public venue, she slipped through an unassuming side entrance that opened into a private tasting room overlooking Port Hercule. No signs, no branding, just a coded door panel and absolute silence. Only a handful of people in the world ever walk through it. Meanwhile, the lady from the Rolls-Royce Phantom was guided toward the marina, where the soft glow of underwater yacht lights revealed a secluded boarding point. A staff member waited beside a sleek tender boat, ready to take her to a yacht anchored just beyond the public eye. It wasn't a party yacht or an event yacht. It was something more intimate and much more strategic. These unexpected destinations made the crowd even more curious. Why were they splitting up? What private gatherings were happening simultaneously across Monaco? And more importantly, why did everything feel so coordinated, as if each woman had a role to play in a larger hidden plan? Because just when people thought the surprises were over, a distant engine sound rolled in from the coastline, so distinct and so powerful that everyone instinctively turned toward the sound. Someone else was arriving, and this arrival would change the tone of the entire night. What most visitors never realize is that Monaco's nightlife has its own system. A quiet, unwritten code that only the city's elite truly follow. And when it comes to the billionaire ladies, these rules aren't just guidelines. They are traditions, upheld with the same seriousness as a royal ceremony. The first rule is simple. Never arrive at the same time as another woman of equal status. Timing is everything. It's not about competition, it's about respect. Each arrival is treated like a spotlight moment, and overlapping it would be considered a disruption of the night's harmony. That's why the Ferrari, the Bugatti, and the Rolls-Royce all appeared with perfect spacing, an elegant dance of timing only they understand. The second rule, no two cars should ever be identical. Even if they adore the same model, customizations, paint finishes, and limited edition specs are used to create distinct identities. In Monaco, individuality isn't expressed through words, it's expressed through horsepower and craftsmanship. The third rule is perhaps the most fascinating. Never walk the same entrance path as another lady before you unless deliberately planned. It's part etiquette, part symbolism. The path a woman chooses represents her current standing, socially, professionally, or even strategically. That's why one headed to a rooftop lounge, another to a hidden tasting room, and another straight toward the marina. And then there's the fourth rule, whispered about, rarely confirmed. If an unexpected arrival occurs, all protocols adjust instantly. It's a rule of fluid hierarchy, a way of signaling that someone new, someone significant, has entered the landscape. That night, as the mysterious engine sound moved closer, the atmosphere shifted. Security teams subtly repositioned. The valets straightened their ties again. Even the lighting from nearby storefronts seemed to sharpen, as if the entire square sensed that the original plan was about to be rewritten. Because while the elite ladies had followed every rule flawlessly so far, an arrival was coming that didn't fit into any known protocol. And that meant only one thing. This final woman wasn't just part of the night, she was about to redefine it. What truly separates these billionaire ladies from everyone else isn't just their wealth or their cars. It's the atmosphere that forms around them the moment they step into the night. Monaco has many wealthy residents, but only a rare few earn the unspoken title that locals whisper with admiration, queens of the night. And it's not because they speak loudly or command attention with gestures. Quite the opposite. Their power is quiet, refined, and unmistakable. When the lady from the Ferrari Monza SP2 walked into the rooftop lounge, the room didn't go silent because of her outfit or her fame, it went silent because of her presence. She carried herself like someone who never needed to compete, someone who had already won long before stepping out of her car. Down at the tasting room overlooking Port Hercule, the Bugatti Chiron lady didn't demand anything from the staff. Yet everyone moved with extra precision the moment she entered. People in Monaco recognize influence instantly, and hers was the kind that shaped partnerships, investment networks, and international connections. Meanwhile, the woman from the Rolls-Royce Phantom stepped aboard the yacht as if it belonged to her, even though she wasn't the owner. Her posture alone commanded a level of respect usually reserved for global leaders. Among Monaco's elite, she was known as someone whose phone calls could open doors across 3 continents. These women didn't need fame. They didn't need audiences. Their authority came from decades of business victories, strategic alliances, and reputations built on elegance rather than noise. That's why locals call them Queens of the Night. Not because they rule Monaco, but because Monaco chooses to revolve around them when they appear. But even with all their influence, something unusual began to stir across the city. Conversations quieted. Security teams exchanged brief glances. The rhythm of the night shifted again, this time deeper and more intense, because the mysterious engine sound was now unmistakably close. And everyone, from billionaires to tourists, felt the same electrifying question rising inside them. If these women are the queens of the night, then who is the woman powerful enough to make even them pause? What happened next would become one of those rare Monaco stories people whisper about for years, the kind of moment that turns an ordinary night into legend. The mysterious engine sound finally revealed itself as a low, controlled growl echoing off the buildings along Avenue Princess Grace. But this wasn't the roar of a loud supercar showing off. It was something deeper, smoother, an engine tuned with such precision that it felt more like a heartbeat than a machine. The crowd instinctively shifted, trying to see down the narrow street, and then it appeared, a silhouette at first. Then the unmistakable outline of a hypercar no one expected. Matte black, with soft gold accents glowing under the streetlights, moving slowly, intentionally, like it owned the road long before it arrived. People raised their phones, but even the cameras seemed too slow for what they were witnessing. The car rolled into the square and stopped with perfect symmetry between the Bugatti's last footprint and the empty space left for the night's final arrival. As if it had been planned, though no one had predicted it. For a few long seconds, nothing happened. The doors stayed closed, no security moved, the entire square held its breath. And then the door opened with a soft, almost silent mechanical slide. A single heel touched the pavement, elegant, understated, but with the confidence of someone who didn't need introductions. You could feel the shift instantly. Even the queens of the night, wherever they were hidden in their private lounges and yachts, seemed to pause. This wasn't just another wealthy arrival, this was someone new, someone unannounced, someone whose reputation had traveled ahead of her. She stepped out slowly, the streetlights catching only the edges of her silhouette, leaving her identity partially hidden, intentionally or not, no one could tell. But every detail, from her posture to her calm stride, suggested she wasn't here to blend in. She was here to claim her place. And as she lifted her gaze toward the heart of the square, people realized something even more shocking. This arrival wasn't part of the night's original story. It was the beginning of the next one. As the final woman walked deeper into the square, Monaco felt different, charged, awake, almost glowing. Nights like this don't happen often, even in the world's most luxurious microstate. It wasn't just the cars, the fashion, or the elegance. It was the feeling that something powerful had shifted, like the city itself had quietly welcomed a new figure into its inner circle. People would spend the rest of the night speculating. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why did her arrival feel like the opening chapter of a story Monaco wasn't ready to tell? One thing was clear. Power in Monaco isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It arrives exactly like she did, effortlessly, confidently, and with the ability to make even the most elite pause for a moment longer than usual. And that's why this night will be remembered. If you enjoyed stepping inside this world of supercars, elegance, and the hidden rhythms of Monaco's billionaire lifestyle, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Inside the Billionaires, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter. Because the queens of the night may rule Monaco, but the woman who arrived last? She's about to change everything, and her story is only beginning.